All right. Dead Void's Volatile Forms is the debut from the band. I believe they're currently uh, kind of based out of Denmark, even though I think two of the members are better known from British projects. Uh, Grave Miasma, Conan, and the one folk, the one guy is from Norway originally, and he played live with Virus, as well as some other bands that you probably wouldn't know from the Norwegian sort of underground death and thrash metal band, or black death metal variety. Um, but this is a death doom metal band, and I think the interesting thing is that most of these people are better known for their time in again in as bassists, as live bassists and bassists on albums. And so, of course, what does that mean? We get a very bass heavy death doom metal sound, very much in the what most people would first recognize as early Cyanide style death doom, and not too much of an emphasis on Celtic Frost, but it's definitely there. And one of the reasons why I would go to Cyanide right away is because of the distortion applied to the bass guitar, which matches the down-tuned level of heft that the guitars provide. If you see the band live, or at least just check out a live video, this is a pretty prominent feature. It's also it's a signature of Cyanide, and it heavily factors into their sound. But that, if you like me, you sort of l- fell into Cyanide sound through like Dark Descent reissues and things like that, and you went looking for other things. There are things that sort of not only where that comes from, but where you can go from it. So my really where I see this album coming from is something more like Funeralial's The Misery Season, which was a different Chicago band who were originally called Contagion. And that was in like the 2000 or 1999, and it was very much a similar style where uh, their riff influence was coming almost exclusively from heavier, meaner speed metal influenced doom metal. So Dream Death, Celtic Frost, those the riff became really very much a fundamental part of what they were doing, and you can hear some of this in some of the earlier obituary works, as well as I don't know, various other similar bands at the time. So that's not to say the sound is typical. In fact, this is one of the more extreme, heavier vision, like approaches to that sound. It's a very clean recording, and um, I can see why it's a popular or a little bit hyped up band here. But they've made some interesting personal choices that add to the effect of listening to this album. I will say up front that it's one of the better Death Doom albums of the year, and not just because it's got that sludgier, heavy sound to it, but because it really ticks the boxes between the things I love about traditional doom metal and the things I love about a group like Crypts. Crypts is one of my favorite death doom adjacent death metal bands today. So you definitely get a bit of that lurching atmospheric sort of treatment of death metal when they speed things up. When they slow down, I hear something closer to Penance or something like that. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean sort of the step between the final Dream Death demos in 1988 through like the Penance's Living Truth demo in 90 and Road Less Traveled. Uh, you'll remember that the vocalist for Dream Death was in Penance early on, and there's this miserable sort of Black Flag esque, slow, darker side to those recordings that is apprehensive of every step. It's miserable and it's slow and it's kind of the way the riffs on this album are treated, except they have the momentum of a Crypts or a Cyanide in there too. I thought that was interesting. I think the album art is quite good, and I think, without drawing it out too much, I think this is not the usual death doom metal album, as much as the impressive sound design will sort of indicate that it might be. Um, that there's, uh, it's just a very immersive and impressive record to sit with. And once I'd gotten over sort of the hype of how heavy it was and how deliberate the arrangements were all through the end of the album, I just appreciated my time with it. It's an album that I look at and I want it to buy right away. And that's sort of those instinctive feelings you get that you come to recognize over the years. So I was very impressed. Um, so that's going to be one of my higher recommendations this month. And yeah, it's as simple as that.